What's up, guys? We're back from the back couple weeks. Apologies in advance, but we're here. Going to talk a lot this week. Got a lot to talk about. We're going to get right into it. Alec, I watched FSU, man. I had him on. I did have him on the side screen, but they were on the TV, and they nearly escaped another loss, dude. But they somehow pulled it out. Got a big sack at the end to beat Cal. I couldn't. I had to like close and wink my eyes a couple of times because I couldn't believe Cal FSU was an ACC game, but that's it definitely was. And I'll give you the floor, man. What was your thoughts on FSU this weekend? I know that you didn't have much time. You guys were at a wedding, but I know you had some time to watch FSU on your phone.
Yeah, I
So
did. I did
what
have
you
time. I made some time to go back and watch that game. I watched the condensed game, so I didn't really get to hear much of the commentary. But obviously, it's good. We needed to win a game, and uh, the offense, looked about the same more or less. But we were
yeah.
able to kind of make some big plays and execute when we needed to. Had a great touchdown pass by DJ. The main thing I'll say about this game is uh, we could have lost. Absolutely could have lost. Cal missed two field goals under 40 yards. They make both those, we lose the game. So it's not like I'm like, oh, I'm really excited and moving forward. That was the win we needed. We play SMU this week. We can talk about that later, but that's going to be pretty tough. I still see the same team more or less. And considering we've had now three games at home and I've only won one of them, uh, I don't really know what this team is about this year. I don't really think there's a lot much special about it. So
Yeah.
I don't know what this will definitely be some motivation, and maybe the team will not be as down on themselves. Maybe have a little more confidence, and we'll see if they grow on that. But it was definitely a sloppy win, and I'm not sure about this coming week.
Yeah, look, it's always nice to get that monkey off your back and get that first win, obviously. Otherwise, you keep creeping every week and we started asking for coach's job and we started making all these rash, crazy decisions. But it's nice that they got the win. You're right. Kicker did miss a couple key kicks, but at the end of the day, man, they finally got that win. I want to bring up a point to both of you guys in just a sec, but I'll let Trent go first. Go ahead, man.
So I disagree with Alex's point that he saw a lot of the same in the sense that I think we saw a defense that we all thought that Florida State was going to have at the beginning of the season. I think this is the first time we all saw Florida State's defense actually dominate like they should. They only scored 9 points. Even if they make those two field goals, they scored 15. But you finally saw the defensive line start acting like the defensive line with Farmer and Payton just wreaking havoc all game. So I think that's encouraging if you're Florida State, is you're finally seeing um, maybe not rhythm, but you're starting to see some dominance and some push on the defensive line.
Yeah.
And they had some interceptions. I mean, look, Mendoza from Cal is a good player. I mean, shout out Mendoza, went to Columbus High School from Miami. He's a good player. I mean, he had 300 yards, but couldn't get the ball in the end zone. And for them to pressure him, cause problems, that's a good sign. They weren't doing that against Memphis. They struggled against Memphis. They struggled against Boston College, and they struggled against Georgia Tech to get pressure and to create stops. So I think this is a good sign of your Florida State fan watching their defense because they haven't done something like this all year long. Offensively, yes, we saw a lot of the same issues with DJU. He might have, he was able to put together one or two drives, but a lot of the same nothingness out of him. I do think that the running game was the best it's been at this point in the season. Toafili kind of got going a little bit. I think this is probably the most rushing yards they've had in a game all season, and it wasn't the greatest rushing performance, but it's better, and it's at least it's signs of improvement and signs of life. So yeah, it's disappointing in the sense that they beat Cal 14-9. You want to see your team score more points than that, but the defense finally showed up, and you saw a little bit of life in the run game. So I think those are just positive takeaways for Florida State.
Yeah, I mean, you guys really hit all the points there. The running game was by far the best it was all season. Like I said, there was a couple key sacks. Defense looked way better. I mean, there was finally some energy in the building. Not crazy like what it used to be, but enough where some people got excited. I'm going to transition to another point and bring it back to this point because it is the fourth game. With that said, something I want to talk about. I think we're going to see a lot of this going forward in the future of NIL. But today we had the UNLV quarterback basically say, "Look, there's numerous reports that UNLV didn't pay the guy, and there's a couple other reports saying that he did get paid, but since he's playing so well, he wanted more." So essentially, he said, "You know what? Screw this. I'm going to redshirt and just go next year somewhere else." 2 hours later, their starting running back did the same thing. And I want to bring up to this point, since this is DJ's fourth game, they're not making the playoff. There's a ton of college teams out there. All I'm going to say is that, do you think there's a shot that DJ may just say, you know what, screw this, I'll sit out. I'm definitely not making the NFL. Maybe I'll try my one more year somewhere else and see what I got.
I don't think he would be. I don't know if he redshirted already, or I don't know if that's possible. But like as far as the team goes, they're sticking with him. So that's the word, and that's what Norvell came out and confirmed with the media this week. He's our guy moving forward. Obviously, that could change. Um, we said this every week. It's not really all him.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, for sure. I agree with that.
but it's kind of just something we're stuck with, and yeah, I'm kind of expecting that as the season goes along, maybe we'll kind of figure some things out, and maybe he'll get a little bit better. He definitely played one of his better games this past week. He may have thrown a bad pick, but um, like I said, made that great touchdown pass when we needed him to and had a couple of good conversions. And going back to Trent's point on the defense, they did play a great game in the red zone for sure. I mean, we didn't give up a touchdown. That's pretty impressive. We also haven't really played a game this year where we weren't. Well, the Georgia Tech game, I guess, was kind of close at the half, but Boston College and Memphis, we got down early. We couldn't make our way back, and this one we got ahead. But we still defensively weren't great, on the back 80 yards of the field and gave up big plays, blew third down and fourth down conversions. Our third down on both sides of the ball are terrible. So yeah, I know I sound a little bit down or pessimistic about it, obviously because I was expecting much more out of the team. I think everyone was this year, but no, it's a good win, and you're right. It was impressive look from the defense, Trent. So I'll definitely give him that.
Yeah, look, I think you're being a way more nicer than what most FSU fans would say, but to put it lightly, look, it's a win, and at least you're on the board, right? Any last words on that, Trent, before we move on?
No, talking about UNLV, just for full transparency, I think it was the fourth string running back. Regardless, he
I
he
got
was
you.
he was a guy that played, but that one is hard to it's hard to really make judgment because you don't know who's telling the truth. I think if the quarterback's telling the truth, and maybe he's within his rights to make that decision. That if the UNLV is telling the truth, then the quarterback's an asshole. Don't really know. It's hard to really make that judgment. But
Yeah,
in terms of DJU, he's not going anywhere.
for sure.
It's his
Okay.
fifth year. Don't I know he got a COVID red shirt. Don't know if that affects his redshirt ability, but DJU's here to stay for the season. This will be his last college season.
Yeah. I'm at the point
Unfortunately
now,
for FSU fans,
for sure, man. I'm at the point now, like in 10 years, I wouldn't be surprised if someone's still playing due to COVID. So,
might be Cam
um,
McCormick.
yeah. All right, with that, let's move on to USF. Before the game started, I texted you guys. I said, guys, I think UM might be in trouble. I'm always rooting for UM. First quarter, I was like, oh man, here it comes. And then second quarter on, man. Before I get to before the end of the half, USF made just a big mistake. They could have capped it in for a touchdown and made that a one possession game. And then they settled for the field goal, and the guy missed it. I truly believe that was where it all went haywire. But I don't want to take anything away from UM. Like quarterback played fantastic. He's obviously now the leading Heisman getter at this point. He's played great. Defense played great. Running backs played great. It was quite honestly a very, very well-rounded second half for that team. And look, obviously some people got mad about the touchdown celebrations. Mario Cristobal came out and said, "Look, I don't really give a shit," or excuse my language, "I don't really care as long as is we don't get flagged." I think it's part of the fun. So as of today, right now, we have USF selling T-shirts saying "Beat Miami." Their season ends today. Obviously, that's not happening. So you could probably get that shirt for $1 if you're interested. But other than that, man, that's what I thought. But Trent, I'll give you the floor, man. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I think USF's a pretty good team.
I agree with that. Yes.
at least relatively speaking. When I look at their schedule and their conference, I think they can win their conference. They have to play Memphis and Navy. Those are probably their two toughest games moving forward, but they could legitimately win the American Conference. Um, they're a good team. I think Alex Golich is a really good coach. They run that up tempo offense, which is hard to defend, and they have a legit home field advantage right now. I mean, they're winning. They have a good fan base in Tampa. They show up the game, so not exactly very easy to win there. They get Navy and Memphis both at home this year, so I would say watch out for USF to win the American. I think they're a contender at this point. But in terms of Miami, and as you mentioned earlier, I was at a wedding, just happened to be Alex's brother's wedding, which I was watching on my phone. May or
Yeah.
may not be regrettably watching on my phone, but um, it was very similar in that first half, I guess, to kind of how USF played Bama. They played them tough. It was hard to defend the hurry up. Took some time to adjust, and like you said, they missed that field goal at the end of the first half that could have put them. I would have been one a
One
three or four
possession
point game, I
game.
think,
Yeah,
at
something like
halftime.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one possession game. Miami's offense clicked the entire game, though. USF really had no answer for Cam. They had no answer for the offensive line. They had no answer for the receivers. The run game once again was very slow starting, and I think that's due to USF stacking the box like most teams have done against UM this whole year. I believe Coach Mirbel and Mario both talked about it in their post game press conferences. They're not really sure why teams are stacking the box, considering what Cam has done these last four games. To be honest, I don't know why teams are stacking the box. They're daring Miami to throw. Maybe that's why Cam has the numbers that he has so far, and why Miami's rushing game hasn't produced as much as we want to see. So maybe in the following games, maybe we'll see teams kind of start maybe throwing an extra DB out there, and Miami run the ball a little more heavily. But we'll see. But Miami's offense again clicked. I'm very, very impressed by the offensive line, Cam, and honestly, the production of the receivers has been great too. The emergence of Isaiah Horton has been great as our wide receiver three. He looks like a legit receiver who will be our receiver one for the next 2 years after this year. But the defense really adjusted well in the second half. They started to finally match that up pace, that tempo. They finally decided to stop a screen play, which was huge. And they again at USF didn't score a point in the second half. They kind of got figured out. You guys, hats off to Coach Guidry, defensive coordinator for Miami. They looked like a completely different defense in the second half, and it's not. I'm not impressed that they won, but I'm impressed of how they won and how they adjusted. So that's a good win for Miami. They allowed a good USF team to only 15 points while scoring 50 and getting the freshman in the game. So overall, pretty happy with that one.
Yeah, well said. Alec, what did you think, man?
I agree with a lot of what Trent said about how, the way that they won was what's impressive here. I mean, we know that Miami is a better team here. They're one of the better teams in the country, at least from what we've seen so far. And what most people knew that they should have won this game, but it was really the first bit of adversity that they faced this year. I know that there was a lot
First time
of,
they've been losing at any point.
yeah, I mean, there was a lot of pressure and stress, I'm sure, leading up to the UF game, but not in the actual game. And this one, I'm sure that they didn't overlook USF. I think that again, like Trent said, they did the same thing to Alabama. This is a team that is pretty good. They put up a good fight and in the first half, but like I said, this is Miami's first time going through adversity. And what do? Different than what we've seen from them in the last couple of years. They responded. They came out in the second half and shut USF out defensively. Very impressive. Playing that same physical defense that they've been playing all year, and then obviously that allowed the offense to go and make some plays and just kind of fall into their rhythm, which was only a matter of time. Um, they had that really long touchdown run, and otherwise the run game wasn't as great. But like Trent said, it doesn't really matter as long as something's working. If they want to come up and try to stop the run, Cam Ward. He's leading the Heisman race right now, and he's because he's proven that, if the ball's in his hands and he needs to take care of it, he can take care of it. So they could keep that rolling for the rest of the year. I mean, obviously, there's going to be a couple tougher games on their schedule, but not. USF is more comparable to some of the opponents that they'll be playing this year. So I think it's a really good look that they came out and won this big.
Yeah.
And I don't know when their first bye week is, but if they can get to that bye week undefeated and then be able to rest up and just kind of move forward in the second half of the season, I think that's going to be, really a really big boost for them.
Yep, for sure. Look, you guys basically hit everything I wanted to talk about here with UM. Trent's right. They do stack the box. I don't know why they do that. Cam Ward is arguably the best quarterback in college right now since Ewers is hurt. I mean, he's pinpointing every throw. It's pretty amazing to see. As we talked about, he is leading the Heisman race. I mean, he is very, very good. He's as advertised. He's definitely worth the money we gave him. Hopefully, look, I don't want to jump the gun yet. There's still a long season to go, but the way the cards are written, man, they have a chance to do something very special this season. So I'll leave it at that. Any last words on UM?
I will say, I mean, you have to give credit to Shannon Dawson and I guess Mario for their offensive game planning, at least for this USF game. They saw that the team that USF was against stacking box and running man coverage. Again, don't know why, but they schemed up a lot of rub routes and led to plays, including a touchdown to Restrepo. On top of that, Cam, he's impressing me every week with his pocket presence and pocket awareness. He's just getting around the pocket, being able to escape, and he found his checkdowns a lot against USF, something I hadn't really seen a lot of from him yet. But he's just making the right decisions almost every time he has the ball on his hands. And you could say Dawson is putting him in those situations by giving him good schemes and guys getting open. But damn man, Cam looks like the truth right now.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Alec, last words, man. You good?
No, I agree though. I mean, Cam Ward, I think people were excited about what he could do, but I don't think anyone could have really seen this coming to fruition like it has been. He's been
Uh,
nothing short of
yeah,
spectacular.
yeah, for sure.
Has maybe made one or two stupid mistakes, but never in a situation where like it affected the ball game. And otherwise, like his confidence, I think is really a big driver for the rest of the team. To have a transfer come in to be a quarterback as a fifth year senior and to be a leader, it's something that I envy as a Florida State fan.
Well, you had it last year, man, so I don't feel too bad. But yeah, well said, guys. All right, quickly, I don't want to spend too much time on this. We can quickly go to UF. Look, I watched this game. I texted you guys before the game started. I said, why the hell is Mississippi State such a heavy underdog in Mississippi State? We saw why. It's kind of weird, man. They're doing the hot hand approach at quarterback. Billy Napier can't really stick to a starter. I mean, Mertz came in and played pretty damn well for a couple of drives, and obviously you saw the other guy come in here and there. But overall, they played well. They beat them in a tough environment. Obviously, Mississippi State is not what I thought they were going to be. I got a little bit blinded by the home crowd and the cowbells, but look, it is a good win for them on the road. They needed this just to get some confidence, uh, have at least something to play for in terms of maybe making a bowl game here. They needed to win this game. So, Alec, I'll hand it off to you real quick, man.
I did watch this game actually as I was getting ready for the wedding, and I thought it was pretty impressive. I think that both of these teams have had shaky starts, and I could have seen the Gators winning this game, but probably by a closer margin. But I will say I was most impressed by Mertz. I mean,
Yeah, he played
he was
well.
on point all game, made some good throws, didn't make any mistakes. They had their nice balance, Billy Nape offense that when they win games, it's because they can make things move on both ends and usually running the ball more than passing. It seems like they only got 20 passes off. Seems like that was the case. And, they played the football that they wanted to play. The moving forward in the season, they're not going to play many other teams like Mississippi State with defense like Mississippi State. They're in the SEC, so it might be a little tougher moving forward when you get some real brute force defensive lines coming at you. I know that Tennessee is Tennessee on their schedule. Yeah, they play every year, and obviously they play a bunch of other teams. But as far as Napier goes, I think our stance is the same. All the Florida fans that I talk to, they want him gone, regardless of how he does against Samford or against Mississippi State. But I think again, like the Samford game. And this is more impressive than that, but it's a good thing for the fans, because it's been some real down times for them. And, to anytime they can get some exciting going, they deserve it. It's been rough for them, but moving forward, yeah, I don't think this will be like a domino effect kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, apparently, Alec, they're getting some booster money to get Napier out of there, dude. So we'll see what happens. There's a whole bunch of reports going on, but a big win for Napier. He needed it. And for the fans, man, I know that it's a bad season, but you want to at least make a bowl game. So right now, that one puts them at least on track, right, for the rest of the season. We'll see, but they got hope, man. Trent, what about you, dude?
Well, first of all, shout out Kevin Goza, Florida alumni, big fan of the pod, always listening, always shooting me a text. I want to give him a shout out. But
Heck yeah, man.
Mississippi State, just want to get this out there, is really bad. They're probably the worst team in the SEC.
I got a text from before. I got a text from Trent saying because Mississippi State sucks. So,
Yeah, they might be the worst team in the conference. I think Vanderbilt is actually better than Mississippi State. The next 2 weeks, they might lose by a combined like 90 points. They play Texas and Georgia in back-to-back weeks. They're in trouble. But regardless of Mississippi State's flaws, I was impressed by Florida, regardless of their opponent, because they were, at least from the quarterback position, almost perfect. Mertz was 19 for 21 with 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he was just
no, Mertz is
flying down
very
the field.
good. Yes.
Mertz was just flying down the field. I don't care who's playing. It's good to see from your starting quarterback that he's able to it will almost look effortlessly drive down the field. I wouldn't even say Napier had the hot hand strategy because Mertz literally went the length of the field and then they brought in Lagway. So I don't know what his strategy is, but regardless, Lagway looked good when he was in the game too. Didn't have an incompletion, and he was also driving the ball down the field.
Yeah. It
So
was a little bit weird because Napier refused to name a starter before that game.
yeah, I think he's probably gonna do it all season. But regardless, this is just this is essentially a tune-up game as it would if they were playing Samford. And it's crazy because they're playing an SEC team, but you still want to see them execute and perform in any game, and they did that this game. So that's still encouraging if you're a Florida fan. Obviously, they have a much tougher schedule going forward. I think UCF is like the last easy game they have, if you even want to call that easy. And then they really get into the thick of the schedule. But yes, Napier's still gone, but it's still nice to see this team still has a pulse and they can still play well.
Yeah. All right, quickly, guys, for you. We before the season started, the reason we took, or at least Trent and I took them to win under 4.5 games was because the gauntlet of schedule they got coming up. If Napier loses, let's say the next 3 or 4 games, how about this? Do you think he's going to last the season as long? Do you think he will last the season as the head coach? Not will he get fired in the offseason? Will he finish out the season, you guys think? My gut tells me no. I think he will be gone by week 7 or 8.
It's a real interesting discussion because at the end of the day, in college football, well, I guess in the pros, if you have a pissy owner or spiteful owner, it can happen like that. But in college football, you have donors, you have big fans who will pull money from everything that you've built if you don't fire their guy. And if you get a couple, like they're doing now, a couple of big guys to come together, they're going to have to do it. Is that better for the team? I don't know. I mean, I think that they would have a better chance with Napier going up against all these teams than whoever that would fill the spot. They're not going to hire some other guy. They're probably going to have to promote from within. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do it, but it's a real sticky situation. Personally, yeah, I think that he will get fired in the middle of the season because they will probably have some embarrassing losses. But right now they're going into a bye week. They're going and they play UCF at home. UCF's a good team. They play UCF at home in 2 weekends. I'll be at the game. I'm going up, and I'm going with my brother Christian, who lives in Orlando, and we're going to be able to see maybe if they could make some adjustments, and that will, I think, dictate how the rest of the season plays out. But in the second half of that season, he would get fired if they get blown out by Tennessee, and then the next week they go and lose to Kentucky. I think that's it. But if they go and they play close games and they lose these games, I think that's the way that he kind of keeps it and stays until the end. But I still think that by January 25, he won't will not be the coach.
Yeah.
And I hope that he could prove me wrong. And for Kevin, our number one fan's sake at home, I'm hoping for the best for him and his Gators.
All right, Mr. Trent, go ahead, man.
uh, there's no right answer.
I agree. It's hard.
There's
It's
no
really
right
hard.
answer. You're screwed no matter what. But I can see. I mean, look. After UCF, they get the gauntlet, and there's a real. What is it? One, two, three, four, five. There's a real chance, like more likely than not, they lose their final 7 games of the season.
Yeah, we went over
Like a
this 100 times.
real,
Yeah,
real possibility. So, look, if they play UCF at home,
it's a must-win game.
regardless if it's a tough game or not, if they lose that game and they go to Knoxville and they get embarrassed, which more than likely they are, 'cause Tennessee is the hottest team in college football right now. I don't see how he can stick around after Tennessee after another loss at home and just another embarrassing loss. They can't afford that. Yes, they get Kentucky the week after that, which maybe they can compete in, but then they get Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss. They're losing all those games. So I can't see him surviving a UCF loss, whether it's close or not, and then a blowout, embarrassing
Yeah.
loss to Tennessee. I think that would be the trigger, and at that point, you just cut your losses because you already know you're going to fire him. It's better to get it out early. I don't know if there's a buyout complication by firing him before the end of the season, but
They'll figure that out. I don't
at
think
this
so.
point, you should know he's gone,
Yeah.
or that decision should be at least almost made by now. And a loss to UCF and a blowout against Tennessee should really put the hammer in the coffin, and he should be gone by then. You need to try to salvage whatever you can by the end of the year.
Yeah, I will say this. I will defend Napier a little bit. I do think he is dealt a very unfair deck of cards here.
For sure. No, no, no. I said this before the season that I didn't think it would be fair to fire him because of the schedule. However,
It's brutal, man.
came
Yeah.
out against Miami and just dropped an egg in a game in a desperation game that you couldn't
Yeah,
do.
that was
Got
the
blown
game.
out by a Texas A&M at home again, and it's not defensible. You can't. It's inexcusable to lose those games, considering the state of your program is. It's inexcusable.
Yeah. Last words, Alec?
Yeah, well, one thing I wanted, another factor at play that makes the decision even tougher is the locker room. If I know that there was in Jimbo's last season, I had a buddy who played on the football team, and he told me in about week 7, I think we started out like 1-3 or something. It was a terrible season. And he told me in about week 7, like, yeah, everyone on the team is kind of hearing the word, like Jimbo's out. And then you saw the performance for the rest of the season when you know you got a, what do you call it, sitting duck coach,
Lame
and
dunk.
you have no reason to go out there, put your body at risk, and play for a guy that you know who's going to be gone. So if you have a bad loss and then a blowout loss, like Trent and I are both saying, that may be a factor that goes towards firing him. And at least you could convince the players, like, look, especially for you older guys, do what you gotta do, put your product on the field to try to get your draft stock up. But for the rest of those young guys, they're gone either way. Either
Yeah.
way, if he's gone, they're gone. And they're gonna have to rebuild from scratch. And what they're gonna have to do is hire a big name guy that's going to be able to come and pull recruits. They can't go for a young and rising head coach anymore because they've fallen too far behind.
Yeah. We're spending more time on this. I want to, but I have to ask this question, guys. Is UF a better job than Ole Miss? Because right now it's the hottest rumor in college football. Will Lane Kiffin leave Ole Miss to go to Florida? There's some reports that say yes, some reports that say no. Obviously, we have Deion Sanders looming out there. I doubt he'll get that job, but you never know. But Trent, quickly, what do you think on that?
I really don't think so. I think it's a lateral move at best. I think where Ole Miss is at right now, their NIL is extremely efficient. Their NIL is working. They're well funded. On top of that, they're winning. They're a winning program right now. When you're winning and you have momentum like that, it's hard to come down from. Especially considering that the boosters, when you're winning, are going to keep feeding you money.
Yeah.
And Kiffin has been getting that program better and better with every year. So it's hard to leave a job like that for a program like Florida. Uh, Maybe Ole Miss won't be a top five team consistently, but they'll be a top 10, top 15 team consistently. Where
Playoff team.
if you go to Florida right now, it's a dumpster fire, and there really is no guarantee that you can get it out the mud,
Yeah, I completely
considering
agree.
where it is right now. So
Lane Kiffin worked so hard to get to this point. Why would he leave now? So I
yeah, I
agree with
don't
that
see it.
100%. Alec, quickly.
Yeah, you got a 12-team playoff now, so you don't need to be top five anymore. You don't need to win the SEC.
Exactly.
I think
And
he's
there's a
got a
lot of,
chance
yeah.
to be there every year. I spoke with Trent about this in the office this week that
Hmm.
Lane Kiffin has the same agent that most of these big coaches have. His name
Yeah,
is
we
Jimmy
talked about this
Sexton.
last year. Yeah.
He's like his
That's what he's
his
doing.
move is putting rumors out to get your guy an extension. So I truly believe that's the reason why you hear Lane Kiffin's name more than any other name right now. I don't see him leaving. But as far as Ole Miss goes, we talked about this a little bit earlier in the week. They haven't played anyone yet. You got a long season ahead of you. And if they end up tanking and losing to every big team that they play this year, that they kind of have been doing in previous years, I could see Lane, thinking about his other options, moving to another school where he would have the same opportunities. But that would only be if it was a disappointment of a year. Right now, it's not. So I don't see him leaving unless, barring
Yeah.
some sort of big
I
down.
I I agree. I will say the one knock on Lane Kiffin is can he win the big game, right? So
Mhm.
we'll see. He has his opportunity to do it this year, especially with the expanded playoff. All right, guys, that's enough Florida talk here. Let's get to there are some very, very interesting games this weekend. Not a great slate, but a good enough where it's worth watching. So let's get right to it, man. I didn't think week four we'd be talking about this game, but it's very interesting considering that Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois. Should I say ranked Northern Illinois? Um, Ill Ironically, Illinois is going up into Notre Dame, and I got to be honest, man, I am having a hard time who to pick because Illinois has looked pretty damn good these last.
Louisville.
Oh, Louisville. They have. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm talking about. Let's shift over to Penn State. I'm sorry. I don't know
Yeah,
why I thought
yeah,
Notre Dame. Let's shift over to Penn State. Look, we all know what our feelings about James Franklin. He's doing enough to get by, right? But Illinois has looked good, man. They've gone into a couple of tough environments. I was pleasantly surprised that they beat Nebraska last week. Their quarterback is pretty damn good. Um, Look, man, I like their coach. He's stirring the pot a little bit here and there, but Alec, I'll start with you first, man. Obviously, Penn State is always in the news every year, but what do you think about this game, and do you give Illinois a real shot to win?
I do. It's funny you mentioned the coach, Brett Bielema. This guy,
Guy's a
he's
legend.
Alabama.
he is a legend. He's kind of done this, a legend not for building strong programs, but for winning games, maybe that he's not supposed to. And I think that that's a big factor in this game. Similar to last week, we didn't get a chance to talk about Rutgers, who they play Virginia Tech, but like they got Greg Schiano as their head coach. Schiano's a guy that could win any game, and I kind of feel the same way about
Yeah,
Bielema.
yeah,
Um, so it's an interesting game, and I think that it'll be a close game. A big factor though is that the game's at Penn State. And it's a night game. Obviously, that crowd's one of the biggest stadiums in football, and they get loud. So that's going to be a tough thing. Illinois, isn't as used to that, except when they go to play Ohio State and Michigan. But Franklin has kind of put a good product on the field. And maybe they had a slip-up game somewhere along the way. I can't remember. But this year they've looked pretty good. I like their quarterback. I haven't been able to watch as much Illinois, so I'm not as strong on them, I guess, because I haven't seen it. I think because they're at home, I like Penn State, but I think it'll be a very close game.
Alec, I will say this. I've actually watched a lot of Illinois this season simply because they played Kansas 2 weeks ago. And Kansas, I was very high on Kansas this year, obviously. I took Jalen Daniels to win the Heisman. They are legitimately a good team, man. Their quarterback is very good. He's got a lot of confidence, man. Their run game is good, but their defense is what's really impressive, man. They get at it. They got a there was a sick interception in that game in Nebraska. Now, some people say it was a touchdown. I don't know if you saw it. Some people say it was a touchdown. Some people was that was one of those things where he snatched it out right at the end and couldn't really tell it was a touchdown. I encourage some of you guys at home to watch that play. Big play in the game. Obviously, in my opinion, that play won in the game. But Illinois is the real deal, man. They're a good team. I'm gonna give James Franklin the benefit of the doubt. I'm gonna give Penn State the benefit of the doubt. Now, if this game was on the road, I would take Illinois, but Penn State should win this game. They have the team to do it. I'm look, they got to win this game, but Illinois is very good. Trent, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm on the same ship with Bama. Uh, Guy's kind of a Titan hunter. We all know he was at Wisconsin. He won 3 Big Ten championships when he was at Wisconsin. He knows a thing or two about winning. He's got a little of that pedigree in him, and he knows the Big Ten. In this case, I don't know. It's tough. I mean, like going back to Bama, he in 2010 he beat number one ranked Ohio State. Like that was like Wisconsin's
Did he
premier win.
really? I did not know that.
He knows how to win these big games. And don't get me wrong, Penn State is not near what a number one ranked Ohio State team is, but it's tough. This game is it's at Death Valley. It's I think Penn State from a roster standpoint is a little better team. I think the spread is 18.5 or 19 or something like that. But
I will tell you this. I will definitely take the. I think it's gonna be a very close game.
I wouldn't be surprised if or I'm sorry, if Illinois covers here. I have been impressed by the way they, from what they've done, what they've showed so far this year. I just think Penn State's had a little too much. I think Drew Allar has played pretty well this year. He's impressed me so far this year, much better than I thought he'd be. And the game is in Death Valley. You know how they get. So I'm going to take Penn State, but it's a sneaky game. This is sneaky. I'm going to take Penn State, but it's close.
Yeah. I will say this: Illinois head coach and Tom Thibodeau, coach of the Knicks. No one knows how to put 10 strands of hair better than those two guys, man. They do a very good job with that. All right. Let's get to the next game here. The game that I got mixed up with, that is Louisville going into Notre Dame. Um, Louisville kind of escaped Georgia Tech, man, at home. They could have very easily have lost that game. Obviously, they pulled away late, but it was very close for a while. Louisville goes into Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame is the ultimate wild card this year in college football. They're so hard to judge week in and week out. Um, could they win it all? Maybe. Could they not make them playoff? Maybe. I mean, you just don't know with this team. They're very inconsistent. Um, I would say, look, they're at home, right? We said that about when they played Northern Illinois, but they lost. I really don't know how to evaluate this team. Leonard at times looks great, and Leonard at other times is very inconsistent. I'm gonna again here give the benefit of the doubt to Notre Dame. I think they'll get it done. I think they got very humbled by that loss to Northern Illinois at home. I don't think it's gonna happen again, but it wouldn't shock me if Louisville goes in there and wins this game. So I'm picking Notre Dame. 2 for 2. I'm sticking with my gut here. But Trent, what do you think, man?
Like you said, Notre Dame's been pretty unpredictable this year. Honestly, most years, it's very hard to predict their games because they always find a way to disappoint at least at some point. But um, this game's in at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
That said, I'm gonna go with Louisville. I like Louisville's offense. I like Tyler Shaw. I like what I've seen so far out of them. They've been more consistent than Notre Dame, obviously. Um, and I think Louisville actually is a big threat to win the ACC along with Miami and Clemson. So I'm gonna go with Louisville as my upset pick of the week. I think they're 6.5 point
There you
dogs.
go, man.
But I like what I see out of Clemson, and it's just too hard to read Notre Dame.
Yeah, Alec.
It's tough. I haven't seen a lot of great things out of these teams. I mean, I think Notre Dame put up a good performance in week one, but they were able to beat A&M. That Northern Illinois loss, I think it was a wake-up call for them. I think that they do have a slim chance of getting into the playoff this year still. They would have to win this game, definitely, to be there. And Louisville, they're coming off of a great season last year. Obviously, they lost in the ACC championship, but their loss this year, would they lose to Cuse? Who did they lose to? I don't know.
Two.
Ooh,
Who?
Oh no, they haven't lost yet. Yeah, Louisville has
Louisville
not
hasn't lost.
lost yet.
No, they almost lost to Georgia
Um,
Tech.
but yeah, and Tech's not a bad team. But I think it was impressive that they could win that game. It was close. Tech's got a tricky offense, but they were able to pull away. I like the home team. I think that Notre Dame, I know they lost to Northern Illinois at home, but they're usually pretty good at home. And this isn't a game that they'll overlook. So I like Notre Dame to win this game, but could see it being a shootout, definitely.
Yeah. Alec, make no mistake, man. If Notre Dame wins out, they will make the playoffs. That non-conference bias is always there. They will get in. I'm just telling you, it's going to happen, dude. All right. Any last words on Notre Dame? All right.
No.
Let's quite honestly, man, I can't hold this much longer. I would love to talk about this game already. Let's just get right into it, man. That's Georgia and Bama. Georgia going into Tuscaloosa. Matchup wise, the game of the year so far, right? You got Carson Beck, who struggled a week ago against, or 2 weeks ago against Kentucky. They won that game. Georgia always finds ways to win. This is gonna be a great game. This is in Tuscaloosa, so it's very, very hard to evaluate this game. I'm gonna just say Georgia's gonna win this game. They haven't proven to me why as to why they're gonna lose this game. I think they've won 38 straight regular season games, which is absurd. Um, and look, obviously, Washington coach goes into Alabama, has done a pretty decent job. Milroe's playing good, not great. Sometimes a little shaky here and there, but Alabama's still very good. I'm going to take Georgia simply because of that record they got going on, and I trust Carson Beck a little more than Jalen Milroe. Even though this game is in Tuscaloosa, I just think until you beat Georgia, man, you just got to ride with them. So that's my pick. Alec, what do you think?
I feel the same way. Kirby Smart, best coach of college football as far as record goes since I don't know, like 2020. So it's like since 2020, he hasn't lost to a coach not named Nick Saban,
Yeah.
and Nick Saban's not the coach of Bama anymore. So for me, I just got to roll with what you know, and obviously it's going to be a tough, big game, biggest game of the year for both these teams. I mean, Georgia plays Texas later, but it's Bama, so they're going to bring their best. I know that Georgia had a shaky game against Kentucky, but they had done that in previous years too and done just fine when they needed to. I like Kirby and his program more than anything, more than any other coaches. And with DeBoer, this is his first, real test, big game as the head coach there. I think he's done great so far. And Washington, yeah, Washington, no, Georgia didn't make the playoff last year. So I guess they haven't played against each other, but I know that the game might be a little big for him. It's probably the biggest game he's ever coached in, other than the playoff game last year. So I just got to go with Georgia, and it's no disrespect to Bama, but I like them more.
Yeah, and to make no mistake, I think Bam is very good this season, but Georgia's a different animal. Until you prove otherwise, you got to ride with Georgia. But Trent, what do you think, man?
About as tough as a or as close as a toss up you could really get. Um, I want to say it's the game of the year, but you can't because Bama, Georgia, and Tennessee all play each other at some point this year, and you can throw Texas in there too. So SEC season is insane. But Alec is right that the only coach that's beaten Kirby is Nick, but and obviously Alabama beat Georgia last season in the SEC championship when Georgia was probably a better team, and
Yeah,
I understand that Alabama had Saban, but they also had Milroe. So Milroe also knows how to beat Georgia. He's done it before, and in the biggest moment. So because an SEC
did it
championship is
last
essentially a
season.
national
Yeah,
championship.
for sure, for sure. That's a good
So
point.
it's a game that's in Tuscaloosa at night. These are two just absolute titans of college football teams, and sure, this is DeBoer's biggest test with Bama, but he wasn't afraid of the test last season with Washington. So I'm going to pick Alabama at home, and I think it's going to be a great game. I think Milroe in his third year, right?
Yeah,
I think he's 30. He's a little more developed, a little more mature. He's been there, done that with Georgia. Um, and they have looked at this point. Have looked better through all three games. I know the Georgia, came very very close to losing to Kentucky, very close. And I know that happens, and they always bounce back. But uh, to me, there's a vulnerability there, and I'm gonna go ahead with Bama.
yeah. I mean, it's not a bad pick. I mean, they're at home in Tuscaloosa at night. I mean, if there's ever a time to beat Georgia, it's now because Carson Beck has looked a little shaky, and dare I say it, does Georgia show a little bit of weaknesses? We'll see, man. I mean, that could quite honestly, they should have lost that Kentucky game. There was a couple big mistakes by Kentucky, but
I'm telling
um,
you right now, I'm taking Tennessee over everybody. They'd scare me more than Georgia
all
and
right,
and
let's
Bama and Texas.
with that said, let's transition there real quick, man. Obviously, I don't want to talk about the game this week. I think they're going to win. I don't think it's even worth discussing. But let's talk about last week. Look, they go into Oklahoma, right? That was a real test. Obviously, Oklahoma benched their quarterback for their freshman coming up this week. Um, Tennessee is legitimately very good, man. I didn't want to buy into Tennessee because I bought into them last year. Joe Milton, it's kind of the same thing this year with this quarterback, but except he's doing the things that Joe Milton didn't do last year. But ironically, the quarterback didn't really win them the game this week. It was just all around team effort. Defense showed up, a couple fumbles here and there. I mean, Tennessee can beat you in a lot of different ways, man. It's pretty scary. And the quarterback hasn't even touched the surface of what he can do yet, man. He's very, very talented, obviously. Um, I agree with you, Trent, man. I think they're a real, I don't know if you want to call them a dark horse now, but I think they're a real threat to win it all, man. I really do. Alec, what do you think about all that?
Yeah, I agree. I think they're probably the best team I've seen, if not one of them this year. They got all the pieces to the puzzle, and you also have a coach that has a chip on his shoulder. They really should have been there a couple years ago with Hendon Hooker till he got hurt, and that threw off their
Yep.
season late in
Yep.
the year. Heupel's proven to be a good guy, and he's really making them. He's quarterback. I think he's quarterback at Oklahoma, and which is a
Oklahoma.
big win for him to go in there and win that game. He's kind of checked all the boxes along the way. And like I said at the beginning, they have everything that they need to beat any team. I think they could beat any team they face. They're definitely going to be in the playoff, and barring any injuries, they're going to be there late in the playoff too.
Yeah. Any last words on Tennessee, Trent?
I mean, look, they. I said before the season, I liked them a lot, and I could have. I think I picked them to be in the playoff, and it's not just because of Nico, but Dylan Sampson's a great running back. They have at least three great receivers in Brew McCoy, Dante Thornton, and Squirrel White. Like they are legit offensively, and Nico is here, and he's here to stay. I've always thought he was the best QB in his class coming out of high school, and that included Arch Manning. I think Nico will be a future number one overall pick. I'm not confident in his abilities. I think he's like legitimately the truth.
Him or Raiola is
Long,
definitely
wiry. He throws a great ball. I mean, he looks sharp, and I guess he's a redshirt freshman still, right? So,
Yeah, I think a
he looks
Heisman
great.
Trophy might be coming his way too, one of these
Yeah,
years.
he might be the favorite next year.
Nico.
Yeah,
Yeah, I put my money on it. He really looked spectacular, and he didn't have to do much. I think they took their foot off the gas a little bit in the fourth quarter. They
they
were
definitely
cruising
did.
up
Yeah,
big after the end of three. Um, they could just ground and pound all game. They were able to. They ran the ball 52 times. So that's usually a good sign of a good team, considering how big and good they are in the trenches. So uh, Tennessee's gonna be a problem for both Bama, for Georgia, for Texas, and Ole Miss. They
yep,
are going to be a problem.
for sure. I want to talk about this team really quick. Look, I don't think they're going to make the playoff. I think they're going to be 7-6 around there, but I think we're doing ourselves and the pot a disservice if we don't talk about Colorado for a minute here. Um, they are by far the most popular team in college football right now, man. Every week people have eyeballs on them. It's unfortunate you guys couldn't catch most of this game, but man, that was one of the craziest endings I've seen in a while. They had, I think, a 0.2% chance to win the game. Shadir threw a Hail Mary that the guy should have caught the first time around. Guy dropped it, and then what do they do? David runs a high two safety in the end zone, and boom, touchdown to the left side. Unbelievable throw by Shadir, and they win that game in overtime. It's really a two-parter question here. Um, just for conversation, do you give Colorado any shot to potentially make a playoff here? And number two, um, we talked very highly of him 2 years ago. Last year, we said he might be on the hot seat, but this year, he's got to be on the hot seat. And David Aranda. So, Alec, I'll start with you first. What do you think of those two questions? Let's start with David Aranda first, real quick.
Yeah, with Miranda, it's just not playing out the way people expected it to. Baylor was kind of doing well on the way back up, and then they brought him in. I think they had stumbled and they brought him in. And I think he had a pretty good first year. And after that, just hasn't been able to keep up. It's a different era, and you're kind of seeing like a lot of coaches phase out from it. But I could see them moving in another direction. But they are in a different conference, or the Big 12 is a little bit more competitive now because they got rid of Texas and Oklahoma. Maybe you could make a good case, but yeah, I'm not. I'm kind of out on him as a coach. So that's a Randa. And then with Colorado, great, great win for them. Obviously, it was a comeback. They score on the last play, but they also could have lost that game. One thing that I've seen from Colorado since Coach Prime has been there is they can win games that they're supposed to win and do it in a really exciting fashion, but they can't win games that they're not supposed to win. Last year, they beat TCU, who is lost in the national championship to Georgia, and that was a big shock. TCU, it was later revealed was kind of having a fall off
Terrible.
year. And so that win didn't mean as much now looking back on it. They had a close game against Colorado State last year. I know it's a rivalry game, and they beat them this year. That was exciting. But they play UCF. I think that's a loss. Kansas State, that's a loss. Utah, that's a loss. Maybe a loss to Arizona. I don't know. Texas Tech,
Probably.
Oklahoma State. These are teams that are better than them, and I don't see them. Maybe they can win one or two of them, but not all of them. And you can't lose. You can't be Colorado coming from the Big 12, not having a conference championship, and having two losses or yeah, I don't think you have a shot there. So I
Yeah.
don't think they'll make the playoff.
Yeah, quickly, Trent.
I mean, quickly on Aranda, me and Alec were obviously his biggest fans after he won the Big 12 a few years back, but just hasn't been able to sustain that ever since. It's been disappointing season after disappointing season since then. I think his time is dwindling. I'd be surprised to see him as the Baylor coach next year. He's probably up there in terms of hot seat. Um, Colorado, I mean, look, man, they generate all this media and they generate all this excitement. To be honest, I don't know why. Their premier wins as a program, like Alex said, were TCU, who was
Yeah,
bad
correct.
last year, and Colorado State, who's not even a Power Five team. So I don't really know what's going on about. I mean, we're gonna talk about them because of Dion and whatever, but these guys talk a lot of smack. God knows why. Like Alex said, they don't ever win the games they're not supposed to win, and they just squeak out the wins that they're supposed to win. So, I mean, Nebraska, they might have been. I don't know if they were favorites. They might have been favorites against Nebraska. If not, they were very small underdogs, and they got just destroyed.
Pummeled, yeah. Plummeled.
So I don't know what it is, but I mean, this is another season that no. To answer your question, Colorado is not going to make a playoff spot this year. I give it a 0% chance.
I agree with that.
Considering they have to play Kansas State, Utah, Oklahoma State, Arizona, they're not making it out alive. Like they might get a couple more wins, two or three more wins. Be surprised if they get to 8, maybe even 7. So um, we're gonna keep talking about them because they're Dion and they're Shadur and they're flashy and they got nice watches, but they're in reality they're not really that good of a football team or program.
I will say a very successful season for them would be over 500. I think that's very realistic.
I'd say.
I do want to ask this question. I will admit I'm a little biased here because I have a futures bet on it. But look, can Travis Hunter win the Heisman? There is a legitimate shot he can win the Bilikmanov Award, and I forgot what the other award is, but there's a shot he can win on both sides. Will he do it? I don't know. but he is by far the best athlete in college football. I think he is the best player in college football, but does he impact his team the most? We'll find out. Usually it's a quarterback award, but quickly, Trent, do you think he has a real shot to win it?
Heisman? No, I think your team has to win in order to win
I agree
Heisman.
with that.
And
Yes.
Colorado's just not going to win. I agree that he's the best receiver and the best cornerback in college football, which is probably not something we'll ever say ever again in our entire lives.
He's
He's
the
that
best
special of a
player.
player.
It's insane to say.
Like
Yeah.
he's that special. Like Bo Jackson kind of special. Obviously, we weren't alive for that, but I could see him. I don't know if he'll have enough stats to win both best receiver, which is Blitnikoff, and best corner, which is I believe Thorpe, best DB.
Yeah. Whatever it is.
Um,
Correct.
but I could see him winning one. Probably tough to win both, but without a doubt, he's the best at both. I don't think that's disputed at all. So
Yeah. Alec, quickly.
Yeah, I think he's the best player in college football, regardless of how his team does. I don't know if he will be taken because in this age, quarterbacks are really valuable. There's a lot of good quarterbacks, but he should be the number one pick in my opinion. He's the best player, in my opinion. So he could win a lot of awards. But the Heisman, yeah, I mean, Lamar Jackson, I think, won the Heisman, and their team wasn't in championship or it wasn't championship contention. He was just that
they're
good.
top. They're top 10 though.
Yeah. Yeah, he was just that good. So I guess that would be the argument. And
Heck,
again,
last year Jaden Daniel lost 3 games. They weren't even top 10. They did pretty well. So I mean, you never know,
That's
man.
right.
yeah, I mean, I guess the bar, is there, and I think he'll be sitting there in New York or wherever they do it. But I don't know if he'll win. He'll probably just go to the best player on the best team like he usually
Yeah.
does. So
All right.
obviously, yeah, Jaden Daniels is an exception, but
Mhm.
he had a phenomenal year,
All right. I'm
and
looking
it's
at the
easier to do as a quarterback.
yeah. All right. I'm looking at the schedule here. I got an upset pick. You guys probably won't agree, but I got to do it. Speaking of Lane Kiffin, and when the lights shine brightest, man, he does it. He does it
Oh
every
yeah,
time.
yeah.
I'm
Say
taking
it.
Kentucky to beat Ole Miss in Ole Miss. I just think this is such a trap game. I think Kentucky has played. I know that they have all the makings to put it together for one game and get one big upset. I think this is it. I think I was very impressed what they did to Georgia. I just think, Stoops is not going to go out like this, and I think he's going to get one big game, and this is it. As you guys mentioned, Ole Miss has not played anyone yet, and this is a tough ass defense, man. And I think Lane Kiffin's overlooked this a little bit, and I think they're going to lose. Now, granted, they probably win by 40 points, and I'm here next week saying, what the hell happened? But I think this is such a trap game. I really do. And I'm taking Kentucky straight up to win this game. Alec, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a good pick. I
Good pick.
It's a good pick. Last year, LSU lost a couple games they probably shouldn't, or played closer in a lot of games that they probably shouldn't. And this will be the first time that, they're at risk of not being in control of the ball game. Kentucky and Mark Stoops' team is a team that takes control of the game. They run the ball, they run the clock down, they run the play clock down every play, and they try to minimize opportunities for the other team to go down and score and then make sure they score on their end. They usually are pretty strong on the defensive front. Obviously, we saw that they did a great job against Georgia and very much could have won that game. Um, so I could see it happening, regardless of if Ole Miss is at home or not. I don't think it's as big as a factor in SEC ball. Um, and yeah, any given Saturday, a team can win or lose. I may pick. I don't know if this game is like a college pick'em game. If it was, I would have Kentucky and a low confidence, just to see if it turns out. I really like the pick. I might be inclined to agree with you, honestly.
Right?
I like the pick, and I like the logic behind the pick. However, Kentucky, especially since Mark Stoops got there, every year, usually about once a year, they will just shut down a top team. And then everyone's like, damn, Kentucky's like a real test. And then they poop the bed the rest of the year. Um, I think that's what happened with Georgia. That was the game that they showed up and they just pretty much shut down Georgia until the very, very end of the game. Um, that game was also in Kentucky. And that's important. This game is in Oxford, uh, and I really like Ole Miss. I really like Jackson Dart. He is the only guy right now that is neck and neck with Cam in the Heisman run. They have almost identical stats. They played, maybe Cam has played one better game or two, maybe I guess with Florida and USF. But to me, they both haven't really played anybody. And Dart has been borderline, virtually perfect.
No, he's been
And on
very
top of
good.
that,
Yeah.
Henry Parrish is a running back, former UM transfer, has looked great, and he's been one of the best running backs in the country this season. So I don't think Kentucky has enough in the tank to go on the road and beat Ole Miss. I even like Ole Miss to cover here, but um, I like your pick. I respect your pick, but I'm going to go on Ole Miss.
No problem there, my man. All right, let's quickly look. There's obviously other games we have this much time left, but I promise you we will finish these two. Quickly, let's get into SMU at FSU. SMU hits a little harder for me because I'm a big fan of Lashley. When I used to umpire his kids. He was very respectful of me, very nice guy. He even gave me a pair of his old
Mm.
UM shoes. So I'm always going to root for that guy. But if we're talking straight football here, I do think SMU is going to win this game. They look pretty good all year so far. I don't think it's going to stop here. I believe they're undefeated, right? I'm not 100% sure.
No, they lost to BYU. Lost to BYU
BYU,
by three.
okay. But yeah, I'm going to take SMU here, Alec. I believe this is a road game, right? It's on the road.
Yeah, in
Yeah,
Dallas.
that's their first
Yeah.
road game.
So yeah, then I'm for sure taking SMU. But quick thoughts on FSU real quick.
Yeah, I don't know. Usually our fans travel well, or even if we're not doing too hot, the tickets had already been bought. I did hear today that because of this impending hurricane, they aren't going to be able to travel the band out there, so there won't be any marching chiefs playing the war chant. That's always something good for the players to hear, even when they're away. I don't think that that was going to be a huge factor in my decision here. I think that SMU's offense is just too lethal, and we haven't been able to generate enough points to even come close to that. So even if our defense is, holding them to, stuffing them up a little bit more than some other teams have, that would be our best shot. But I just don't feel confident in our ability to score more points than they do. So I don't know if I've ever picked against the Knowles on the pod, but I don't think we're going to win this week. I think that I'm going to pick SMU to win this game.
Sounds good. Hopefully they shock the world, man, win this game. Trent, go ahead, man.
You know, this is tough, and I think one of the main reasons is that SMU isn't. Yes, their offense has been good, but it's not exactly the team I expected coming into the season, mainly because of their QB carousel. They started off the season with Preston Stone, who was supposed to be, a top at least 10, 15 quarterback in the country. He's not the starter anymore. Now it's Jennings, who has been fine. It hasn't been exactly bad. Um, but it's that uncertainty that makes me think about this pick. Also, SMU is essentially UM 2.0. That entire roster is filled with Miami guys: Brashard Smith, Romeo Brinson, I mean Jalen Knight, and I can go on and on and on. Miami guys filling up that roster. So Brashard Smith has actually played pretty well at running back. He's now a running back for SMU. He's put up a good amount of yards his last two games, but I think I'm gonna go with SMU. I think, like Alex said, on the road, no marching Chiefs. This is their first road game of the season against probably the best offense they've played all season, even with the QB carousel. So I'm gonna go with SMU just as a kind of I need FSU to prove it to me. This is a prove it game for FSU in my eyes. If they can go on the road and beat SMU, then I think you'll start seeing me pick FSU more likely than not in games. But uh, they have yet to really prove to me that they can score. I know they won last week against Cal, but they're going to need to put up points this game because I think SMU is going to, as well as FSU's defense played last week. But FSU and DJU are going to need to score 20 plus points to win this
Yeah.
game, I think, and we'll see if they can do that on the road. I just like SMU here.
I will say this: if DJU can actually play to his potential, they can win this game.
What
No doubt in my mind. But will he? Who knows?
hasn't had
Uh,
potential since his freshman year.
yeah. All right, let's get to UM real quick. They play Virginia Tech. I may or may not be at this game. We'll see. But I know probably Trent will be, right?
Pending weather, as long as there's no thunderstorm delaying the
Yeah,
game for 3 hours, I'll be there.
correct. Now, I am picking UM to win this game, but this team always scares me, man. They always, in the past, have had troubles with this team. But I think this year will be a different story. I think, quite honestly, whatever the spread is, I don't even care. I haven't even looked at it, but I will definitely take the over. I think they're going to win. I think this is the first year where I can confidently say they're not going to screw around and just get right to it. Home game, crowd will be hopefully electric with the weather, obviously, in the tropical storm stuff. But look, they should win this game, and that's my expectation for it. I don't really want to talk more than what it is. They should win, and I feel pretty confident in that. So, Trent, go ahead, man.
The most dangerous phrase in the UM fan base is "it's different this year," quote unquote, because we love to say, "Oh, it's different this year." So this year, Friday night game, their first, ACC game of the season. They're not wearing black jerseys, thank God. But you know, there's been countless amounts of times where these teams come out for a night game, primetime game, Friday night. It's the game of the night, and they just, completely underperform. And I'm not saying it's different this year, but I think the Cam Ward effect is different this year. I think that's a guy that completely raises the floor of your team. So it's hard to lose games like this. You have a guy perform the level that Cam Ward is performing. And with all the other, obviously, that's not to take away from the rest of the team. Offensive line has been pretty spectacular. He's gotten a lot of help from his receivers, but it always starts at the quarterback position, and Cam has been that good. Virginia Tech, on the other hand, has been very disappointing this season. The Miami opened at 17 and a half favorites, and I think it's at 20 now. Um, Kieran Jones is the quarterback of Virginia Tech. He's actually the cousin of Cam Ward, and he's like he hasn't played well this year, but he's been sneaky. Like he's a mobile quarterback, can throw the ball. Had a decent season last year, and mobile quarterbacks are always tricky, especially with this team. So it's just like USF. They can't come in. They can't sleep on Virginia Tech because they are more capable of what they've shown so far this season. Um, but Miami just looks too good right now. It's hard to pick against Miami against a team that's looked as poor as Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
Um, I like Miami to win, and I think if Miami covers this, if they actually beat Virginia Tech by 20 plus, I would be impressed by that. I know the fans on their message board, the Virginia Tech message board, certainly think that's going to happen, but remains to be seen. But now is the time where Miami needs to start stacking wins, get consistent in conference play, because that is what they have never been able to do. It's just to keep being consistent. Their best year since 2003 was in 2017, where they went undefeated the first 9 games. We all know how that ended. They lost their last 3. So consistency is the key. Stacking wins, even games that you're supposed to win, execute, come out and perform. Um, but I will pick Miami here.
All right. Hit a lot of good points, man. Very well said. Alec, quickly, go ahead, man.
Yeah, Virginia Tech couldn't beat Rutgers. They're not going to beat Miami, right? Those are just Virginia Tech on one end. Virginia Tech is not a good team this year, or not as good as they were expected to be. If this game was at Virginia Tech, maybe it might be a little different. Not as far as who will win the game. Maybe it might be a little closer game. I think that Miami, the team knows, the coach knows, and obviously the fans know they've been waiting for this for a little longer than the average college football fan group outside of the 2017 year. They haven't had a quarterback. Derek King was a great experiment for them, worked out great until the end of the year, but the main, the Cam Ward's doing better, I think, than having more of an impact at least than Derek King did. So I kind of compare these 2 years of what they can do when they have a good quarterback and have momentum. But going back to what I was saying about everybody knows how long we've been waiting for this because this game is a home game. I don't think they're going to overlook any team that they play at home this year, whether it's a crap team or a good team, because they really are and you could see it in the way they celebrate after scoring and making big stops. They're trying to put on a show and give back, it seems like, to the fans who have been waiting for this for so long. to have a confident. I'm not even trying to rub it in. Like it's just, I guess that's just the way it is. But
That's
to have something to be proud of and to have that the dirty dog Miami like, bruising team that they, always cherished. And so because this game's at home, yeah, I think it'll be a blowout. Virginia Tech, that's a tough loss last week. They're not gonna be able to recover in time to put up a fight against Miami, barring any special package that they've been saving for this game, that they might break out. Like I just don't see it happening. Miami's a good team, we all know it, and they're gonna win. I think they're gonna get to that 20-point mark, probably.
Yeah. This is where shit hits the fan, right? And we come back here next week and say, what the hell happened? But no,
absolutely.
uh, that it's always in the back of my mind. But I agree with everything you guys said. Wish we had more time, but look, there's a lot of good games this week. A lot of teams to still talk about. That's why we have that 12-team play. I promise you, we will talk about a lot of these teams going forward pretty soon. We will talk about your Oregons more, your Clemson's come here getting hot late. Um, I get your messages. I hear you. We can only talk about so much, but I promise you, we will talk about that in the future. But Alec, Trent, and I love you guys watching. We appreciate the support we get, and we'll be back here next week, guys.
All right, go
All right,
Canes.
go
Rules.
Canes.